Gundam.tk presents Double O Quanta. Hey again everybody, Robert 184, 2 R's 2 B's, Gundam.tk, continuing my look at the high-grade Double O Quanta. Anyway, don't forget to check out the earlier parts for the deboxing, and now it's time to take a look at the parts now that they're all put together. Before I get started, I should mention that there's a lot of seals left over because I didn't use any of them. Of course, I decided to go with the green paint that I got all the way back when I got one of my first 00 kits. I think it was the 1/100th 00. Well, anyway, they had the clear parts and I spent the 200 yen to get this and it was worth every penny, of course. This is Tamiya X25 clear green. You can also get the red and the blue depending on which kit. This is the only one I used and people always ask me how you do it, and I'm not a good painter. So I'm really the wrong guy to ask, but all I do is I take a brush and I slap this on undiluted, and if it looks too thin I put on more. And sometimes I have brush marks etc. left behind, but overall once you put them on the model, I think it does look better with this on, even if it's not done perfectly. So when all is said and done, you're going to get, of course, the two legs, a separate waist section with a hip bar here. Then you're going to get the chest, the arms with the shoulders already attached. You're going to get the GN Sword 5 plus an extra interchangeable blade. Of course, you're going to get the GN shield with all of the bits on it. And you're going to get a head and something to attach the shield onto the backpack, along with an extra manipulator and the action base. From bottom to top, there's a lot of deja vu going back to the 00 Gundam. So first of all, you've got rotating hip up at the top. The bend mechanism, you'll notice that the back of the knee splits and it comes down here. It's sort of cool that it reveals the gray on the inside. Over here, of course, you have the green part that you can put the dark sticker underneath, but I just like the clear green on white. But when you really zoom in, of course, you can see that I've got some paint marks and it's not perfect. Here, the ankle part will split up at the front if you want to bring the foot forward, and it's got a huge range of mobility there. The waist and hips goes back to the thong approach with just some extra material hanging down there, I guess. Anyway, I just put some gray lining on there. These are just tiny polycaps, just a ball on a peg there that you just plug in to keep everything in. Hopefully they'll stay in place, but of course you're going to get a lot of mobility. And you attach the legs onto here and attach this in, and there's a plate at the bottom that you can take off if you want to attach this to the action base. The chest was the first thing I built when I was putting this together, and it sold me on the kit right from the beginning. So first of all, you've only got this red piece at the bottom, white, blue, primarily blue. Over top, this yellow part here is just one giant piece there that you're going to cover everything up with. I put in a fair bit of black lining there and these white parts on the chest. Now this is a gray part underneath, so the clear green shows up completely differently than you see here on the leg. But anyway, nonetheless, it's sort of good in a way because then the brush marks disappear. The white part on the chest, I'm glad that that's not a seal, and you have a fair bit of color up there. And on the back, you'll notice some asymmetry here. This is also a seal, because you're able to attach the shield on to here, of course. For whatever reason, out of Exia and 00s, I sort of like Quanta's arms the best, and it's all because of the shoulders. These are just two blue pieces that you're going to stick together, but if you put in a little bit of black lining before putting on this white part here and here, I think the effect, for whatever reason, is just pretty cool. It goes together really well. In terms of mobility, of course, the shoulder can move up and down and around there. For the arm bend itself, you're able to bend it up this much, and then the wrist will bend up and down for anybody who's already built a 00 kit. Now, it's sort of cool that we have the clear green parts, no problems with them falling off, especially when you put this giant blue part over here. And this is an important part of the forearm because this is going to be used to keep the GN Sword 5 locked into place, conceivably even when it's a huge cloud strife mode. Now the other thing that I really liked is when you look at these two arms, you'll notice, wow, they're asymmetrical, and that does not happen very often on a Gundam. Anyway, of course, if they had this flap sticking out at the end, this would be pretty in the way of the GN shield. But anyway, the same idea with the white part there, the lining looks good, and instead of having this giant blue thing that caps on, these white parts are actually designed differently. These are just two pieces that you put in together with this thing sticking out on the back, and again, they do have this hole here if you were to attach a weapon. For manipulators, you're going to get two standard hands, which are just a single gray piece with a white backing on them. A little bit hard to get the lining just right, but I'm glad that they give you this open hand so he can either be saying hello or be pointing really coolly as he slices through you with the GN sword. Speaking of which, I have to say that this sword for me is a little bit ugly. It does nothing aesthetically pleasing about this compared to the earlier swords that we've seen on XE and 00. But anyway, it does have a ton of gimmicks built into it. So first of all, at the back, the handle here is going to bend, so you can move that around in his hands. These blue parts also move, and of course this part is going to lock into the forearm to keep everything in place, which it's probably going to need with the extra weight later. Now with this part, you're also able to pop it off and put it on sideways, very similar to 00's weapons, and these gray parts pop off, and the reason they do that is that actually this straight blade is able to be replaced with this straight blade, and then you put the gray parts back on place, and of course we're going to attach the bits onto this, and for whatever reason the blue pattern looks a little better when you put this seal on. But where does this kit get all of its value from? Well, very simply, it's from here in the shield. So of course when you build the shield, it's just 3 large parts. This is a big white sticker that doesn't stand out as bad as I thought it would. But anyway, when you put the parts on, you're going to put the bits on you've got to put them on in the right order, of course. You've got this long one, and you'll notice that this part here sticks on, and then these just attach. So you can think of that as sort of being one part here. And then down below, we've got this one part that sort of sticks out in the back. And one of my few complaints is that if you look at it from the front, you actually only get to see this much of the blade. It would sort of be cool if this one protruded a little bit more, so that you could sort of get the double effect. But otherwise, the clear green parts that Bandai give you is really worth the extra money. With everything taken off, you can just see that we have a poly cap there to mount the 2 of them on, and then the single one just mounts on the back. And again, this blue part is mounted on a swing mechanism, so if you bend that forward, you can open this all the way up, and this little part here, which is apparently part of the GN drive, will bend forward and attach into the back, and whoosh, off he goes. Now the bits themselves all look really cool. Probably my only complaint is that sometimes this is just a single green part put into a single blue part, and they can fall off a little bit. So you're going to have to make sure that those are in all the way, and even then they're going to fall off on occasion. But this one is especially of note because this part, if you take a look at the manipulators, you can actually plug it in there, and all of a sudden we've got bit knives. Sort of more effective than strike, I have to say. Now the action base is primarily just 4 large pieces here. We've got one that's angled quite a bit forward, we've got one that's angled pretty much straight up, and of course they both just use this peg attachment that will attach into the waist section. And there's also this lengthener here that you can put on either of these, and when you plug them in you can put either one in the front or back, and you just put it in and slide it in, and you do have a fairly good sense of balance afterwards. And finally we have the head, which is a real mix, as you can see, of 00 and Exia. First of all, you've got red piping down at, or you've got a red chin, of course, down at the bottom. Very thin lines that are pretty easy to line. But what I thought was really cool is that in the back there, you'll see that I painted that green, but this is a light pipe that actually goes all the way from the back to the front. So if you painted the eyes black while keeping some of it clear, and if you painted that with clear green, you'd conceivably be able to have light piping through the back and popping out and lighting up the eyes, which would be pretty cool. And again, I'm glad I went with the clear green paint instead of the seal there. This, the V-fin, or the double V-fin here, is just one single piece, which looks pretty good. And these green pieces, again, because they're on white, tend to stand out in a really good way. And I put a little bit of black lining that's a little bit too thick on there, but I do like the look of the head. The only problem being is that this sticker doesn't quite fit in, but I really shouldn't have lined that part there because now I have lining because the sticker doesn't quite want to cover the front and line up with that back part there. So you could choose to expose some white on the front, but I thought this was the lesser of two evils. That wraps up my look at the parts, but of course, is it going to look any good put together? I sort of think Exio Repaired 2 looks pretty good, so let's see how this 00 Quanta wrap looks itself. Anyway, everybody, of course, this is Robert184 from gundam.tk. Don't forget to hit like if you do, don't if you don't, comment either way. And as always, let me know what you think. It's always great to hear from you. And thanks to everybody who has subscribed, and if you haven't, please do. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon with the next part. I'll help you, Exia. No. I'll be fine on my own. Thanks.